Hey there, it's Leanne with Outdoors and Country Living. Today, we're making tomato juice out of these beautiful tomatoes from our garden. I hope you stick around and see how I do this. We're going to season it and make it so full of flavor. It is the best tomato juice you will ever have. First and foremost, we encourage you to get some type of canning book. These are some canning books that we have in our library. They will all serve you well, but to know the basic principles of canning is very important when you embark on this home canning journey. Please get yourself one or a few. Let's go. Well, we're going to have to wash our tomatoes, get any dirt or debris off of them from the garden. You're going to core your tomatoes using a paring knife. And then we're going to cut the tomatoes to fit down our electric food mill. So we basically quarter the tomatoes, cut them to the size that fit down the chute here in our food mill. You're going to need 23 pounds of tomatoes to make a basic recipe of this tomato juice. Now we're using a large salsa screen because we want the maximum amount of tomato pulp in our juice as possible. I guess we like things thick around our house. And yes, the seeds are in it because we don't care. So I'm processing the tomatoes in the food mill. The skins are being spit out on the left. The beautiful tomato pulp is coming down the chute into the bowl. Again, I have a large salsa screen on, so the seeds are coming through. You could use a smaller screen to get those seeds out, but they don't bother us. I'd also like to note or tell you, we don't like to put hot tomatoes into our food mill. It's hard on the machine. It's hard on the plastic. We don't want to heat the plastic up. That's our personal preference. A lot of books will tell you to cook your tomatoes first and then run them through the food mill. At our house, we prefer to do a raw process through the food mill to save wear and tear on our equipment. And I guess you could maybe say we're doing it the lazy way. You can keep your opinions to yourself, though. We do have smaller screens that would take out those seeds, but we choose not to use it. So in our house, we like to season our tomato juice. So what I'm using is 1/4 cup of sweet dried basil, 1/4 cup dried parsley, and yes, we grow them here at our house. 1/4 cup onion powder. This is homemade onion powder. It's a little chunkier. Oops, I went over a little bit, but that doesn't matter. 1/4 cup garlic powder. 1/4 cup natural salt. We use pink Himalayan salt. It's important that you use a non-iodized salt when you're canning. And 1/4 cup ground black pepper. Again, these seasonings are completely optional. This is just something we like to do at our house. If you want to leave them out, just leave them out. It won't affect a thing. So if you're seasoning, make sure you just mix those in well. This makes the most flavorful and best tasting tomato juice, in our opinion. You can drink it straight out of the jar, or you can add it to soup or other recipes. So bring this concoction to a boil. Since we don't pre-cook our tomatoes, we're cooking them now. And we're gonna, once it's at a boil, we're gonna cook it for about 20 minutes. While this is cooking for the 20 minutes, just be sure to occasionally stir it. Make sure it's not scorching the bottom of the pan. So once it's cooked for 20 minutes, you want to turn your heat off, and I like to let it cool down a little bit before we start packing the jars. So we're going to need some lemon juice, 2 tablespoons to each quart jar or 1 tablespoon to each pint jar. You can also use citric acid, 1/4 a teaspoon for pints, 1/2 a teaspoon for quarts. This helps bring the pH level lower so harmful bacteria cannot thrive in tomato products. We're going to fill our jars to 1/2 inch of headspace. You can see here I've got the lemon juice prepped in the bottom of these quart jars. We use a stainless steel funnel to make filling easier. So once your jars are filled, wipe the rims with a damp cloth. I just have a damp washcloth I'm using. Apply your lid and your band. Tighten the bands fingertip tight. Do not over crank them. Once you meet resistance, then stop. If you crank them too tight, your lids will buckle and you'll have wasted time and food. Once we get these ready, we will be putting them in the water bath canner. Quarts will process in the water bath canner for 40 minutes. If you're doing pints, those process for 35 minutes. All right, the jars are in the water bath canner. Since the tomato juice is still warm, I'm adding hot water, 1 to 2 inches over the top of the jars. I've got my burner on high while I'm filling, and this will all warm up together. We're going to bring it to a rolling boil. 1 to 2 inches of water is over the jars. I'm going to put the lid on and wait for it to boil. So it's at a rolling boil. This is when you start your timer. Quarts are for 40 minutes, pints are for 35 minutes. The time is up. I'm going to turn the heat off on the burner and remove the canner lid. We're going to let it rest just like this for 10 minutes. This helps prevent siphoning and spewing. After 10 minutes, lift the jars out of the canner and wait. Listen, listen, listen. Isn't that a beautiful sound? Doesn't always happen. All right, so I'm just getting the jars out. I have a cutting board covered with towels to protect my countertops. Get the jars out, and you're going to let them sit here for 12 to 24 hours to completely cool. So while they're sitting here cooling, you can admire how beautiful your tomato juice is and what a good job you did in making it and preserving it for your family and your pantry. That's going to be so good. So once they've cooled completely, you want to remove the bands, clean the jars if they need cleaned up a little bit, and label them and get them ready for your pantry. So this is how we make tomato juice at our house. Again, you can season it or not. But I hope this tutorial video has been helpful for you so you can make tomato juice for your family and your pantry. Be sure to check out the video description below. It has a lot of information in there regarding equipment and processes. The recipe will be down there as well, and why we do what we do. Thanks for sticking around and seeing how I make tomato juice. I hope you can make some for yourself too. May God bless you. Take care.